Hello, my 35 to I think 40 subscribers. This is Michael. I'm alive. It's been a while. And yes, this is an actual video with actual recorded quality, but still low budget mics as I'm talking into the microphone of my PlayStation 5 remote. So, this video I'm kind of just doing on a whim, as Borderlands 4 is coming out this year, and I've always loved the series, and it gives me a great excuse to talk about the series and rant a bit about what I think is interesting, what works, and what doesn't. So obviously, since most games and stories don't start at the sequels, I am starting at Borderlands 1. Released in 2009, Borderlands 1 is obviously the first game in the series, and also the first game in the looter-shooter genre. The genre that would now become one of the most oversaturated and overused, well, not exactly oversaturated, but one of the most used genres in modern gaming. The history for Borderlands 1 would be very well known, as Borderlands is the first original IP, well, the second original IP released by Gearbox Software following the release of Brothers in Arms in the early to mid 2000s and the creation of two Half-Life DLCs during the 90s for Half-Life 1. Borderlands 1 was originally going to be a much more gritty, realistic, and real-looking game, following suit with graphics for the time, such as the then ongoing Modern Warfare series or the World at War games. Though, I don't know how, I unfortunately forgot that little piece of research at the moment, I'm sorry, but somebody realized that if you want to release something, you have to have something different as well, which led to them revamping most of the game's art style to now looking like the iconic one we have now. Some characters were still interestingly kept from the original trailers, and other characters were repurposed, most notably being General Steel being the original look for Lilith, and Zed being who was supposed to be Roland. Now with some small tidbits out of the way, as this isn't really about the development history of Borderlands, this is more about Borderlands itself, the next logical point is to move on to the plot, or I guess the lack thereof, as Borderlands 1 plot is about as consequential to the overall experience as Doom 1's overall plot is. The basic gist of the story is this: you are mercenaries. Welcome to the planet of Pandora, where everything wants to kill you, maim you, or turn you into colorful confetti on a cave wall. And you are here to find a vault, an ancient cache of alien weapons, technology, women, or whatever Marcus's dad or grandpa thought would be funny to tell him that night. And the story, honestly, doesn't really go anywhere from there. You kill bandits, bandits try to kill you, they fail, a small twist, a decently sized twist happens in the third act, and you fight the most underwhelming sushi boss fight of all time. So that's about that. But then again, Borderlands 1's legacy was never its plot, though its terrible boss fight and ending did become quite a meme in the franchise and had to be rather radically course-corrected in Borderlands 2 to feature an actually epic boss fight, which the game luckily did. No, anybody that will talk to you about Borderlands 1 will talk to you about playing it with their friends, trying to find the Nemesis Invader, farming pearls in the General Knox DLC, or, if you're like my family and my dad, spending hours headshotting zombies because you really wanted to get that brains trophy. Now, if it wasn't obvious in my case of the description, Borderlands 1's legacy came from its co-op. Being able to play it with friends, split screen or online, is something that is almost lost today in most games, as most games today will simply just opt to make everything online. Well, that is fine. There is something lost in not being able to just plug in a controller and have a fun adventure like this with your friends, which is something I'm very grateful that the Borderlands series has continued to have in each subsequent release. Now, as anybody also knows, co-op wasn't the only thing that Borderlands 1 was advertised as. It was also advertised as the game with the most guns of all time, ever to be created, and to be overdone only by itself. Now, to say that's an understatement is a lie, as Borderlands 1 definitely features a lot of guns. As you can simply see here, underneath the flames, the floor is absolutely littered with little things and little rarities popping out of enemies and pieces, though that is slightly an understatement, as Borderlands 1's guns are more different in terms of stats and how they operate for damage output than actually different guns, as the series wouldn't really have very experimental or really gag or unique weapons as such until the second entry. Borderlands 1's guns are just that. They're guns. They're good. Some of them are better than others, but they kill, you point, you shoot, and it works. Though Borderlands 1 does stand to me be as something interesting in the series, as its guns, in my opinion, are much more viable on different rarities than in the other games. As with Borderlands 1, you can pick up on about level 69, which is the maximum, you can pick up a wide rarity pistol, and there is a chance that that could actually be better than the legendary you currently have equipped, which is something that I find very interesting about Borderlands 1, as its guns and gunplay is very different compared to the rest of the series. Obviously, it's very simple, but what I mean with the gunplay is how elements and how death reacts in Borderlands 1. This leads me into my next point on the atmosphere and overall feeling of Borderlands 1 itself. Borderlands 1, compared to the rest of the series, is very bleak. Its sense of humor is definitely a bit more cynical and black. Its location designs are much more, as someone would say, gritty and grim, being much more deliberately Mad Max. Even its DLCs, color and vibrancy were never really a thing in Borderlands 1. Its main game consisted of mostly driving in empty wastelands and killing people. Its DLCs consisted of walking up and down on empty-ish wastelands and killing zombies, robots, or depressed soldiers and old men whose bosses are 5-year-olds that give them orders with napkins and tissue paper, or macaroni, I think it was. My point being, Borderlands 1 is very uniquely different than the rest of the series. And that reflects in almost everywhere. Its writing is similarly much more slightly darker than Borderlands 2's Borderlands 2, and especially Borderlands 3's over-the-top wacky approach to comedy. Whereas the punchline in Borderlands 2 or 3 would probably be something along the lines of, "Oh no, you killed my sister, but it's a good thing my sister already wanted herself dead anyway because, that's just how messed up Pandora is." Borderlands 1's punchline would probably fall along the lines of something more like, "Wow, it's a good thing you killed that guy. He already killed my family and then I killed him myself, so what a great job that is. Luckily he didn't burn alive." Unfortunately, my comedic skills are very bad, as you can hear. But my point I'm trying to make is Borderlands 1's writing and comedy style is similarly much more bleaker and different than the rest of the series. A better example would probably be the death of TK Baha. In the other games, you would probably find him rogged out on his mind, blown to pieces, but still have time for a funny one-liner. In Borderlands 1, the joke is finding his bloodied corpse hanging from a fan. I think that's a better example. That is something else interesting. The world of Borderlands 1, as I said, definitely feels a lot bleaker, but it's also a lot less caring about you as a character compared to the rest. And though you are the main character and Vault Hunters are somebody that is important, in Borderlands 1, being a Vault Hunter, you're considered a joke and a moron. Your jobs are petty, the pay you get is really crappy for some of them, and they all kind of just involve killing more people and more and more and more, because Vault Hunters in Borderlands 1's time period is considered a joke and a bad one at that. You don't mean anything to the world, and everybody would like to very clearly make that something out to you. It's only in Borderlands 2 when being a Vault Hunter became something that actually meant something. And that is something I think that puts the game being at an interesting point, as it's the only game in the series where you really don't feel that special, aside from the fact that you can throw the killer bird, punch people in the mist, walk through space and time, and have a little turret. Other than that, you're not really considered somebody special in Borderlands 1, and as I said, that's something that's interesting considering where Vault Hunters and what the overall series return into, as even by just the Borderlands 2, being a Vault Hunter is considered almost a superhero or mythical legend because of the Borderlands 1 Vault Hunters finding and killing the Vault. It's something interesting to me, that's something I wish the rest of the series could have kept for the other games as well. Especially Borderlands 3, where you go to different planets. I would have liked to see how Vault Hunters are thought of on different planets where Vaults maybe weren't as prevalent as they were being looked at on Pandora. And that leads me into something else itself. Pandora. Borderlands 1's Pandora, as I said, is bleak, but also the way it's treated with its characters is different. The best example of this, in my opinion, is Tannis, who in Borderlands 1 you'll find a string of side missions finding her echo diaries, chronicling her going from a bored scientist being stuck on a backwater rock to having conversations with fat people dying under chairs and gargling on their own blood and fluids, and relishing it because she knows she won't have someone to talk to for the next couple days. As I said, it all comes together to make Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 1's Pandora feel like this very cruel and uncaring place that really doesn't want you to actually be there and doesn't want you to find the vault, and it doesn't want you to stay longer than the next ammunition is until you run out and die. With that being said, I still think it's fun to go back to Borderlands 1. It's the start of a series that would inevitably change a lot of things in the gaming world and would inevitably also become itself something of a mystery in its own series, as Borderlands 2, Borderlands the pre-sequel, and especially Borderlands 3 would pivot away very, very hard from a lot of things that was so different in Borderlands 1. Mostly being the tone, the style, and its writing. Borderlands 2, from the get-go, is a heavily, heavily more colorful game. Almost everything in Borderlands 2 starts out colorful. Borderlands 1 starts you out in a giant brown desert, and Borderlands 2 starts you in the exact opposite, being the cold, icy Arctic. Borderlands 2's writing was also similarly more comedic, more lighthearted, though that would be a problem that would end up eventually biting the series by the time of Borderlands 3, as the series itself would become a joke in how frequently it wanted to undermine points with humor, which is something Borderlands 1, like I said, doesn't do. It's very dark, it's very to the point in a lot of cases, and that's something I find interesting. Now, with that being said, the legacy of Borderlands 1, as I said, is very cut in stone. And do I think that even though it is that old and it is not always as fun as the other games, I think it is still worth playing just for the fact to see where a series like this started and to see how different it is compared to the rest of the series. Though with that being said, if you do plan on playing this on, say, PC, I would recommend instead getting the original version or the original Game of the Year version, as I don't know if it's been fixed, but I know the remaster that I'm currently playing on PC has a very bad memory leak issue and causes crashes. Please let me know. With that being said, that's all I have for this video. Please let me know what you thought, what do you think I can improve on, and I hope you enjoy this little rant on Borderlands 1. Thank you all very much, and hope you have a good day.